When you're starting thinking about what to automate, just list down what your process is, what you want your perfect episode flow to be like, from reaching out to the guest to publishing, promoting. There are a lot of items on that list. And then when you know exactly what you want to do, you look at which ones can be automated. So the advice I'm going to give is not going to be perfect for everyone, but it's going to probably apply to most people. Let's say you have an interview podcast. This is how I started my workflow obsession. I had a lot of interviews in a short time on my podcast, and I had to research the guests. It's a new person, and I don't know that person. I know their LinkedIn, but I had to research them. So what I did, I set up a very simple, not even a website, it's a script that ran locally, that I feed that script previous episodes where my guests were. It transcribes them, analyzes them, and tells me what they like talking about, what kind of questions they were asked. So I'm doing research. I'm researching my guests and learning about my guests from those transcripts, and I'm learning about the guest, and I'm getting ideas for what to ask them without having to listen to 5 hours of podcast interviews. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't have the time. Back then, I didn't have the time. So that would be one. You can automate a lot of the research. You can use AI in a smart way to help you with the research to save you time significantly. And if we're being fair, this research was not getting done if it's not automated. Like, you'll look at their LinkedIn profile, their website, take some notes, and that's it. But you can actually analyze 5 hours of their previous interviews and understand your guests much better. So that would be my number one for sure, because nothing gets me happy than when I ask a guest something and they say, "How did you know that? Like, did you really listen to that podcast from 17 months ago?" I say, well, kind of, my assistant did, not me personally, but that magic moment when you have a guest who realizes that you actually did your research on them better than all those previous podcasts, I think that's a very magical moment for a host. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to replicate, and you can do that with automations and with AI specifically. That would be one. For sure. Number two would be you can have a template. This is a very simple automation. If you have when you're preparing your interviews, I like to have an outline, not a full script, but an outline basically for every interview I do. And I have the sections that I do every time. I have let's say there's a deep dive section, there's a rapid fire section, there's a big picture section, all that stuff. I like to have my outlines following that template every single time, because then I know what the interview is going to be like. I don't like to just wing it from the first to the last minute of the interview. I also like my guests to be prepared, and I tell them before we record, I tell them, hey, this is what it's going to be like. We'll start with the big picture about your profession, about how you got there. Then we take a deep dive into the main topic. We take some rapid fire, and then we close with some applicable advice that everyone who's listening can apply to their life or work today or tomorrow.
Let me interrupt you, because I have on my list, I've got 2 different 1s and 2s. And so I need to verify something. So I got here, I was going to ask you, what are the top things we can do? And I did hear you say, first, you got to list the process out. You list it out, you get it, writing it how you want it to look, how you want it to go. And then second, you look at which things can be automated. So I had that, and then we started back over with numbers again. That's the part that confused me, and I want to make sure that the listener is with us. So we went back to a number 1 again, and it was number 1 thing that you can do to automate is automate your research of your guest. So I've got this as the new first thing. You said, if we're being fair, it wasn't being done when it wasn't automated. So for some people who don't have you called it your assistant. For some people that don't have their assistant going in and taking the other episodes and getting understanding what questions you can ask and things like that. Some people don't even do it. And then you went and said, number 2 is you outline the episode. You don't script you don't give it an exact script. You create the sections that you do every time using the template. So let me back up for a second. The first thing was list out the process that you want and how it goes in this. And then step 2 there is look at the things that can be automated. Now that you're able to do it, the first thing is the research. The second thing is having an outline. And I interrupted you. I want you to stay here, but I want to make sure that the listeners with us too.